Did you know that the International Space Station took 10 years and $150 billion to complete? As a matter of fact, it's often regarded as one of the most expensive structures ever built. Luckily, that investment has led to some stellar discoveries like the fifth state of matter. So why are scientists trying to blow it up? Join us as we take you on a trip to the ISS, discussing its origin, accomplishments, inevitable destruction, and a likely successor. Trust us, just hearing about the plans for obliteration will be worth the price of admission. So without further ado, let's start the show. It's incredible to think that the ISS has been orbiting our planet for 22 years. It doesn't seem like so long ago when the idea of a space station seemed out of reach. Starting in the 70s with the Soviet Union's Salyut program, we have had some stunning examples of what is possible for a space station, including Skylab, Mir, and Tiangong. But of all the space stations that have ever been launched, none have captured our hearts quite like the International Space Station. The ISS was built to be special right from the start. It's the only space station to have been constructed by the combined efforts of NASA, Russia's Roscosmos, the European Space Agency, the Canadian Space Agency, and the Japan Aerospace Exploration Agency. It took more than 30 manned missions over 10 years to complete the ISS, and when it was finished, it outshined anything that had come before it. The ISS was built for long-term exploration of space and for the benefit of the people on Earth. And in this regard, you can say that the ISS has outperformed. Originally slated to last only 15 years, the space station has exceeded the expectations of even its creators. Over its lifetime, it has grown into a distinctive research institute that can solve the puzzles of our life on Earth and our grander purpose. The ISS has been used to perform multidisciplinary research in biology and biotechnology, materials and physical science, and technological advancement and development, as well as to study the impact of long-duration spaceflight on the human body. The findings of studies conducted on the ISS have been used in several scientific fields, allowing us to enhance the quality of life on Earth and gain the knowledge and experience necessary to go to other planets. Some out-of-this-world discoveries that have been made on our out-of-this-world space lab include the discovery of the Bose-Einstein condensate, also known as the fifth state of matter. More on that in another video. Also, the ability to identify unknown microbes in space, and the creation of revolutionary disease treatments based on experiments with growing protein crystals, just to name a few. If the ISS is so great, why does NASA want to blow it up? In all its magnificence, the ISS is not without its problems. The single most significant problem of the ISS, unfortunately, is its age. No matter how wonderful or shiny your first laptop was, after a while, its performance starts to dwindle. It slows down, it gets a virus here and there, and eventually you have to throw it away. So think of the ISS as a laptop that is nearing the end of its technical life. Except this laptop costs $150 billion. NASA admits that the space station has been raising a lot of safety concerns for years. To begin with, since it was constructed when it was, a lot of parts on the space station are already outdated, particularly on the Russian section of the space station. There are also several problems like strange holes on several parts of the ship, leaky modules, failure of the carbon dioxide removal assembly, and pressure leaks. Some of these problems have been so severe that if they weren't fixed when they were, the crew on board the ISS would have had to abandon ship totally. In fact, there have been so many issues that crews usually spend more time fixing the station than actually doing any scientific research. And all this on a $3 billion budget every year. And yet, Even amid safety concerns, NASA has decided to extend the lifespan of the space station to 2031, with the last crew expected to be at the space station in 2030. While that definitely raises some eyebrows, sooner or later the ISS will have to be decommissioned. But how exactly do they plan to get it out of low Earth orbit, or LEO? This is where the fun really begins. NASA plans to deorbit the ISS, which is basically a very formal way of saying they're gonna let it drop into the Earth's atmosphere and watch it be torn to bits. What's that? Deorbiting sounds familiar, you say? Well, you might be familiar with the term because satellites tend to deorbit quite often, burning up on re-entry with very little fanfare. So what's the big deal then? If deorbiting is a common occurrence, why are we devoting an entire video to this topic of deorbiting the ISS? Well, the fact is, the ISS is way bigger than any satellite. It's the size of an entire football field, making it a lot harder and much more dangerous to maneuver. But here's the plan. The International Space Station circles our planet at a distance of around 354 kilometers or 220 miles above the Earth. However, due to the natural atmospheric drag on such a large object, causing it to lose altitude each year, the space station occasionally gets a reboost to a higher orbit. So for deorbiting then, NASA will basically stop raising the height and start doing the reverse instead, by slowly reducing the altitude over a several-year period leading up to the 2031 deadline. By 2030, the last crew that will ever board the ISS will have arrived and will be in charge of ensuring that everything on the ISS is accounted for in preparation for deorbiting. They will, of course, leave the space station before deorbiting commences. For the final suicidal dive, NASA will have to make sure that the space station is on track to crash into the South Pacific Oceanic Uninhabited Area, or the area around Point Nemo. Point Nemo is the farthest point on Earth from any landmass, although you might know it as the Spacecraft Cemetery, for obvious reasons. As the ISS begins its fiery dive towards Earth's surface, NASA will try to perform one last operation. Ground control will attempt to steer the football-sized space station into the welcoming waters of the remote Pacific, where our beloved ISS will join its buddies, the previously retired Mir and several of the Salyut space stations. How amazing is that? Sounds like something straight out of a movie. We told you it would be worth the price of admission. Even though deorbiting results in fire and chaos, this destructive process of retiring a space station is actually carefully and precisely calculated. In fact, NASA predicts that the ISS will break up in 3 significant phases. The solar arrays are expected to go first, followed by the modules, and then finally the complete destruction of the truss. Any debris that survives the breakup will sink into the depths of the Pacific. While the days of the ISS are literally numbered, there are several plans to build a bigger and better space station. Several international partners are combining forces to launch the Lunar Gateway, a space station that will orbit the moon and is a key component of NASA's Artemis program. By 2025, the space agency hopes to send a man and a woman to the moon. They also plan to create nothing short of a base consisting of a surface habitat, a lunar terrain vehicle, and a rover. The camp is expected to help further our exploration of the moon and deepen our knowledge of the universe. To accomplish and support all this, there has to be a space station. There are several other companies looking to build space stations as well. And amazingly, most of their designs are modeled as spherical structures that can orbit our planet like the moon, and also have the ability to travel anywhere in our galaxy. Pretty much like a Death Star. Sounds a bit ridiculous, right? But there might be something to it. Everyone's favorite billionaire, Elon Musk, sure thinks there is. Just for fun, let's take a look at what it would take to build a Death Star. Say we were to build it out of steel, just like most space stations. This gigantic planet-like space station would require a lot of steel. With our current technical abilities, it would take more than 800,000 years to obtain the amount of steel required. This makes this form of planet-like space station only feasible if we use raw materials for its construction from space rather than from Earth. We would likely need to mine asteroids and even our own moon for that. And what do you know? Companies are already researching and planning how to do exactly that. However, that's only the first part. Supposing we manage to solve the logistical problem of obtaining sufficient raw materials, we would then need to develop robots capable of operating in microgravity in order to complete the creation of a spherical body that we might inhabit. Long-duration missions at the International Space Station frequently cause astronauts to have bone mass loss, low blood pressure, and other health problems that are linked to microgravity. So we would need to construct this planet-like space station such that it has gravity similar to Earth, since without gravity, our bodies become pretty weird. While it is still in the works and will require a string of technological advancements not yet developed, a planet-like space station like the Death Star is not out of reach. A project like that will do wonders for space economics and planned colonization. Just think about all the new occupations, research and development that will come from novel industries like asteroid mining, multi-planetary human habitation, and even space tourism. The possibilities are endless. Would you like to see a planet-like space station? What do you think about the destruction of the ISS? Be sure to leave your answers in the comments.